How does this brick-shaped object not fall out of the sky? In my last video, in which I discussed how airplanes fly, I posited the following question. If airplanes utilize their wings to generate lift, how do things without wings, such as helicopters, fly? I do have to admit though that that's kind of a trick question, as it implies a false premise, that helicopters don't have wings. The problem is that they actually do have wings. The first thing we need to understand is what a wing is and how it works. Definitionally, a wing is a type of fin that produces lift while moving through the air. The full explanation of how this happens is rather complex and involves getting into some physics and frankly some contentious areas in aeronautics that go beyond the scope of this video. So I'm just going to give you what I think is the simplest explanation to help you conceptualize it. A wing functions using Newton's third law, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. When a wing moves at a high rate of speed, it will rapidly collide with the air. Wings are shaped and angled in such a way that when they collide with the air, they push it downwards. The equal and opposite force from pushing it downwards pushes the wing upwards, generating a force called lift. Airplanes, which are called fixed-wing aircraft, move their wings through the air by moving forward at a high rate of speed. Helicopters, or rotary wing aircraft, instead move their wings through the air by rapidly rotating them around a central point. Multiple wings, or blades as they're called, rotating around a single fixed point are called a rotor. A helicopter's main rotor is usually located above the fuselage and is not only responsible for moving the helicopter up and down, but also forwards, back, left, and right. All of this is achieved by adjusting the angle of the blades. Generally speaking, the greater the angle of attack, the more lift the blade can generate. To move up or down, the pilot utilizes the collective, which is a control that allows the pilot to simultaneously adjust the angle of all the blades in the rotor. Increasing the angle on all the blades enough will cause the helicopter to move upwards, and decreasing it will allow the helicopter to move downwards. The helicopter can move laterally by using a control called the cyclic. What this does essentially is independently adjust the angle of each blade based on its location, meaning that when, for example, a blade is at the back of the helicopter, it will be pitched higher, resulting in greater lift, and when it's in the front of the helicopter, it will be pitched lower, resulting in less lift. Naturally, the difference between these two forces will cause the helicopter to tilt forwards, right? Well, actually no. This would cause the helicopter to tilt towards the left. The reason for this is complicated, so I'm just going to tell you that it's a phenomenon called gyroscopic precession, and that it essentially means that any action we take in adjusting the pitch of the blades manifests itself 90 degrees later. There's a lot of great videos out there explaining it in detail, but it goes beyond the scope of this video, so if you're interested, check some of those other videos out. Moving on, have you ever noticed that all helicopters have at least two rotors? The second rotor can be in a number of different positions, sometimes directly above or below the main rotor, sometimes it's horizontally behind the main rotor, but in most cases it's positioned vertically on the tail and is called a tail rotor. This is an absolutely essential part of the helicopter because it allows us to not completely spin out of control. You see, the main rotor, because of Newton's third law, imparts a torque to the body of the helicopter in the direction opposite of the way it's spinning. So for example, American helicopter blades spin counterclockwise, so the body of the helicopter will naturally spin clockwise. In order to counteract this torque, we utilize a secondary rotor. In the case of a tail rotor, it functions much like the main rotor, except due to its vertical position, it can apply a force laterally to the tail. We utilize this not only to counteract the torque generated by the main rotor, but also to rotate the helicopter left or right. In an American helicopter, by increasing the angle of the blades in the tail rotor, we can generate more force, which rotates the nose of the helicopter left and the tail of the helicopter right. We can also decrease the angle of the blades to generate less force, allowing the torque generated by the main rotor to rotate us right or clockwise. And that's pretty much the basics of helicopter flight. Of course, this was an extremely simplified explanation of what is a very complex topic, but I'm hoping I've given you enough information to at least be able to conceptualize how they work.